Good evening, greetings. I'm Kendaki McConnon, and this evening I'd like to welcome you to Life Foundation's Mental Health Solutions for Drug Addiction, Violence and Crime. This evening we have some guests with us, and first of all, I would like to welcome and introduce to you our guest, Princess Otas Akenzua.
That's right.
Oh, wonderful. She's the granddaughter of His Royal Majesty Oba Akenzua II. She's a spiritual counselor, angelic Reiki master, and CEO of Immortal Healing. Welcome, Princess.
Thank you.
So first of all, I'd just like you to just tell us a little bit about your this evening. Tell us a little about yourself.
My journey, you mean that got me on a spiritual path, or
Well,
that got me to the studio?
What would you like the listeners to know about you? And I mean, you're here this evening, part of the Rehab to Life Foundation, and we're going to be talking about drug and alcohol addiction and some solutions. So, really, what got you into this area? You know, and a bit more about yourself.
Well, I am the CEO of Immortal Healing. Immortal Healing is set as a platform to help support those who feel emotionally challenged, those who feel an innate calling to take responsibility for their emotional health and well-being. We facilitate energy healing. We believe that everything is energy, and we believe that energy is always changing. So this is the time where a lot of people are being called to become more conscious that it's about learning how to work with energy. So this is where we come in. We facilitate meditation classes to help strengthen the power of intention, focus, and awareness, because it's about focus.
Now that's interesting. Now, your name, Princess Otas Akenzua. Tell me, did your background within the tradition, and you said you're from Benin State.
Yes, Edo State, Nigeria.
Right. Did that have play a part in you actually becoming involved and setting your company up within spirituality and dealing with emotional?
Well, my journey started as a born-again Christian, 1994. I was going through an emotional challenges, like most people. And my emotional challenges drew me to seek solution. And the first thing I thought about was to go to the church. That was the only thing I knew to do. Although my bloodline, we're more into ancestral acknowledgement, However, I believe that things happen for a reason. So I began that journey in 1994 as a born-again Christian, and I learned so much. It was about up until 2005, I had a wake-up call. I had an innate calling to take my spirituality to a next level. So, and it was just one thing after another. I remember emotionally traumatized, depressed, unhappy. Even though I'm praying, I felt like I was stuck. I felt like my prayers were not being answered. So I remember going to the park to meet the sunrise. It was just a natural thing to do at 5:30, and I cried out and I said, if God is teaching me anything, what is it? But I didn't expect to hear a voice reply.
Wow.
A disembodied male voice responded and said, go back to nature, for you cannot separate spirituality from nature. And it resonated. And I said, how do I go back to nature? And the voice said, you need to master through meditation, for the kingdom of God is within you.
Powerful.
And it resonated. That was when I knew it was time to leave the church. And I said to this voice, please guide me. So it was just one step after another. I started to seek for venues that would teach me how to do meditation. So it was one thing led to another. And yes, again, I came to another blockages where I needed more answers. And a friend of mine told me about a lady. I went there to seek spiritual counseling, and she just happened to be an angelic Reiki master teacher. I didn't know what angelic Reiki was, but when she finished with me, every cells in my being said to me, I want to do that. And so I trained because I knew that people needed this. And that's how I came on this path, the passion to help others.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. And, when we get into the second half, it would be really good to hear, how we can work to find solutions, because that's what this is about, finding solutions for people who have been, traumatized and who have gone through challenges. So that's wonderful. And so you obviously continued, went on, and did Reiki master. You obviously went ahead and did that, and then a number of years ago you set up your company.
Yes.
So the people who do come to you, I mean, is it a wide range
Yes.
of issues that they actually come to see about?
There are people who feel an innate calling to take responsibility for their emotional health and well-being. Because you know, we are in the age of awakening. We are in the age of spirituality. We are in a place where people are looking for solutions. People are emotionally wounded, you know. And so, yeah, it's people who feel life, broken relationships, broken homes, people who feel they want to know more about who they are. They come to me, professional people as well.
Thank you, Princess. We'll be coming back to you
Thank you.
later. Thank you. So, our second guest this evening will be just as interesting. His name is Michael Telemach. He's the director of American Fragrance Oil. He served 25 years, built a company within 2 years of coming out here in the UK, England. Welcome, Michael.
How you doing?
I'm doing good.
That's good. That's good. That's what I want to hear from the sister.
Wonderful. Please tell us a bit more about your journey, because this is a very interesting introduction. Let the listeners and myself know a bit more about your journey.
First of all, how I came to come here to
Mm.
this thing tonight
Yeah.
was this brother right here. Him and two old ladies came to my store, and they were talking to me, and I was listening to them. You know, they was into religion. The other two ladies. I'm not into religion. What she went through, I've understand from a child. But they came and talked to me and everything, and left, stayed in contact with me, and me and him talked. We found out about how I came to this country back home, and then that started from there. Now my journey here was I did 25 years in federal prison. Um, when I finished my sentence, I was deported. I came to England with no papers, no nothing, just left on the airport. When I got here, it just so happens, I don't know how, I signed this paper that was in the States and this thing they had called prisons abroad here in this country. So when I got here, they accepted me. I went, there was me and another dude. They used to have us with our bags. There was a lot of people that had been deported going through the same thing in the system, but nobody knew. Me and this dude, what we had to do was put our clothes into the luggage every day, go from hostel to hostel. They gave us £5 to eat every day. Okay? So we're doing these traveling. We might sleep here, might sleep. And remember, I've got no papers, nothing to get a room, nothing. So now I've got to use all street understanding. I've been from since I was a little boy.
Right.
So now I got to figure out, they're telling me this, they're trying to do this, but nobody's getting it. So I go on the streets and actually go to a hostel named the Generator, walk into to the office, the man in the office, I say, look, I got deported, I got no papers, I got nothing, but I got money for a room. He said, whenever we have a room open, you can get it. Now, Prisons Abroad was some help to me, but they want my key. The key of it was I went into Prisons Abroad, looked on the wall, and I seen crisis. I look good, but I stay homeless. I stay in 220 Arlington Road. Okay? One of the oldest homeless shelters in here. Why do I stay there? Because I've been shot 8 times. For level access floor, that's where they put me. Okay? So now I went to crisis. I looked on the wall and I seen this thing that they had grants. And I'm trying, I can't believe that they're giving grants away for 5,000, 2,000 pounds. In the United States, you will never get that. You grind. That's what you do. You either go this way or you go that way. The same things he's talking about. That's what black people are built on, energy. You know? So you go one way or the other. So after all that, I came to realize that I'm going to take a shot at this, you know, instead of going the other way. So I go into crisis. I get what I need. I go into crisis. And crisis, I tell crisis, I want to apply for the grant. Homeless? I said, yeah, I'm homeless. So once they checked I was homeless, they gave me the papers for the grant. They went away. I went with it. Filled out the grant, came back, gave it to them. Had to do the maths part, which was you had to give them 12 months of what you was going to do if you got the money. It usually takes 3 days to get it. Because I was so worked up, I didn't have nothing else to lose. It took me 20 minutes. Once I finished the paperwork and when they called me upstairs and said, you got the money. Because I had to go in front of the board and give them my presentation. Everything was white on the board. And I'm not racist. Don't get me wrong. But questions that was being asked to me was to throw me off and everything. But it just so happens, all of them was intact for me already. He said one thing that was kind of like a throw off, but when I hit him back, he looked at like, he said to me, oh, you're just going to sell these in the market. You're not going to go online. I said, I've already got online appearance already. Here you go, son. He was stuck. But what he was really trying to do was go online with my idea. That's what I believe. I can't prove. No harm done. Didn't work. So then I filtered it out. Got to the market. The market, I looked around, I said, I can't believe that there's no blacks in the market. No blacks don't have no franchise in England. We're 3%. I've left here since 79 and nothing's happened. Won't happen while I'm here. Something's got to change. We got to understand the energy that she's looking for is in us understanding economics. Our kids don't understand economics. We don't have a clue about money, you know. The only thing that stops you in England from getting money is you ain't got money. It's not like the United States. The 12th Amendment says blacks, you've got nothing stopping you but air and not having money. But this country is it's the 4th richest country, and it's not even a country, it's an island in the world. Everything in this country has been boosted up to something else. And it takes us out of proportion as black people. We're all off balance in London. She said something else that was very interesting I found, because I believe in energy. That's it. And if the body, mind, and soul are not in order together, you will fail. The energy will be sucked out of you. By the time you reach 45, you'll look 80. You have to learn to eat right. You have to learn to sleep right. You have to be around the right energy. You have to learn the right books to read. You have to get you a trade. You either have to get you something that keeps your mind going, because Mother Nature doesn't like nothing to stand still. That's her law. She will clear everything, and you'll be talking about the devil did it. The devil didn't do nothing. Mother Energy say you are bad children, and you will pay for that. And you'll be looking around, walking around like this. And that's what's going on right now with the chrono. Everybody feels it's this, it's that. Look at what we've done to the system. Look what we've done to the air. Look what we're doing to everything that's going on. You don't think we should reap some bad back off it? But we don't. We feel like, oh, we can't be touched. Some of the problems. Now, after, like I say, with crisis and everything, I got my thing together. Like, I was in the market. I seen the market was racist. I didn't see no blacks in there. I still went in there, still did what I had to do, built my brand up, came up out of there, went on the high street on Seven Sisters Road, got me a pop store, opened it, and now I'm functioning. Now my dream is to open more stores, but not my stores, Black English people's stores with the products that I have that we can get. We don't have to go get, can import exports just like everybody else. All it takes is a little money, a plan. Black people have no plan, but there can be plans installed because there are people that are willing to help, to do things. Like myself, I think I could set my own, a program up for Black kids within learning how to trade and with stores. And very little capital would have to go into it for them to do this. And they will have, see, in the United States, kids look in their fridges in the projects and there's nothing to eat. There's nothing but water to drink. Their mothers are on drugs. I used to take the whole projects over. I'm keeping it 100. I used to take the whole projects over and do what I need to do. If I can do that with a negative energy, just imagine what I can do with positive energy. You know, I used to take over the whole projects and feed dope in there and do what I wanted to do. Nobody did nothing to me. So just imagine the turnaround. This is what whatever created us is doing. He's taking soldiers and he's turning them around. Maybe I won't never make it to heaven, but it don't matter. As long as I leave some good here, I'm good.
Now, I think you just said something really important there, and that was that, and I'm reinterpreting what you just said. Our young Black males, our young females, we have a natural genius within us to be able to do, business, but as you said, this financial education isn't really given, though you learn maths and English and economics, it's not financial education. So there's an innate understanding that they need to make money, and the only thing that's been presented is to do drugs. And in the second half, and that's not the only thing, but that's one of the easiest thing, unfortunately, that people fall to. So let's not say that it's the only thing. It's not. But
okay, go ahead.
And definitely in the second half, we really want to go into some solutions around, the issues that we're facing in the community. But I think that was very poignant. The fact that you had the ability, you saw that you could run a project, and now, and it will be, we're going to hold you to that you do assist in putting these projects in place. And we'll talk again a bit more about that. But certainly to assist the youths who may be going down the road.
There is another way, you know what I'm saying? There's plenty of other ways. The projects is set up to sell drugs. This is what they do. Let's say you have a neighborhood. You fix the neighborhood up, it's lovely, it's beautiful, it's everything. As soon as you put the drugs in, you takes the value down. Then you got one store that boards up all the windows. We start selling drugs out of them. Makes the value go lower. Then you got this one, and we do it to this one, and we do it to this one. Now we got bases sleeping in this one. We got smokers, this one, this one. The whole value came down. We went from landlords to slumlords. Now they come in, the white person, and take it all out. They take everything. They don't. Let me get this right. No, don't say white people. I'm not going to say it like that. But they come in, and they take out everything out the system, but leave guns and drugs.
Yeah.
So you took the stores, you took the parks, you took the recreation park, but hey, you forgot the guns. They're going to kill each other because there's nothing happening. If that ain't designed on purpose, McDonald's don't even exist. You know, it's the design of how it is that you have to look at and say. Kids got to say to their head to themselves, "This ain't right." But then on the mothers and fathers, we think our kids owe us. We owe them. They didn't ask to come to this place. See, that's what mothers and fathers don't understand. Your kid did not ask to come here. You need to leave him an education, not a pair of jeans and a house. He needs something so he can go through the system and do this every day because he's in a snake system. It's capitalism, the study of money, economics.
Okay. It will be interesting when we go into part 2, when we start to really look at solutions. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so our third guest this evening is Tamara Gabriel, aka Vanda Peter Pierre. He is actually the founder of From Rehab to Life Foundation. He's the author of a book called From Rehab to Life. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. It's an amazing read. He's a singer, songwriter, actor, poet. He's a recovered addict. He's an ex-gangster after 20 years in addiction. Welcome, Tamara, and thank you for, putting this together. What can I say? Tell us about your journey to here.
Well, first of all, I have to give thanks and praise to the Most High, our Creator, Mother, Father, God, Holy Spirit, God, our Creator, that energy that we talk about. And yes, I am a spiritual person. I wouldn't call myself a religious person. And if I was a religious person, I wouldn't really run it down. I wouldn't really, look down on religious people or on anybody, as a matter of fact. As I mean, whether they're atheists or not, it's in love. I feel love. I know the energy I was created from is out of love, loving energy, and out of that love comes truth and comes, respect, self-respect, self-esteem, and self-worth, and also out of that love there comes peace of mind and emotional balance. And out of that love comes healing and strength, and even trust and faith. Without love, for me, there's nothing at all without love. And I'm just grateful to be here by the grace of the Most High, for the mere fact that, this is, my Creator. He talked to me in rehab, and what am I going to do? And just like Princess said, she heard a voice. Well, I heard a voice say to me, use your talents. And so that's what I did. I embarked on I started to write songs in rehab. My first song I wrote was called, in rehab, I wrote many songs before that. It's called The Walk of Shame. I wrote that on the way to an AA meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and recorded that song while I was still in rehab with the help of other members of the Fellowship of AA, who provided the studio and the finance and so forth to back my talents. And by the grace of God, eventually this led to an album, which is called From Rehab to Life. That album there, because I got myself involved with a brother I knew for 40 odd years and so on and so forth. And I myself had already spent over £40,000 on that album. I know I got ripped off here and there, but still, I spent a lot of money over a period of how many years. And then, they came along and I thought I was going to do business with them, but the energy wasn't right. To cut a long story short, I was to deal with them. So this is what happened. And to cut away from that energy. And lo and behold, what I discovered was that as I trusted them to, register my tracks, my songs and so on with PRS. In fact, they registered them in their names to take 100%, 80%, 70%, 50%. and all that sort of thing. I had another album which had nothing to do with them at all, claiming, most of the royalties from that as well, which is a disappointment. And I'm going through the process of that at the moment. I'm not denying that they spent some money, but £250 in remastering and pressing 20 CDs, and really doesn't really count for that much. They didn't pay for the musicians or the studio time or for anything like that. And as we were talking about energy and our people, how we can't seem to get on and so on and so forth. There we have this greed comes into it, selfishness comes into it, jealousy, envy comes into it, and so on and so forth. And we have to transcend these things. And the only way I know I can transcend these things is through love and forgiveness, not through knife and gun or by taking drugs, which I did for a very long. I became addicted to crack cocaine and cocaine powder and to alcohol for 20 years or more. And during that time, I lost all my businesses that I had, and also I stopped making music, and it was very bad. I reached the point where I even stopped praying, which I used to do every day. And I remember I denied that I was in depression. I denied that I was an alcoholic. I denied that I was a drug addict. I even denied that I was a gangster. I denied. I had an excuse for everything. I had blame for everything and so on. So, it's the system's fault. They're wicked, they murdered million bank and grab some money and come out, or what's wrong with me, doing roughing up a few people here and there to get my way in life and so on and so on. Use these things as as self-justification. Thank God today I endeavor not to use self-justification anymore. I ask the Most High to guide me, so I have to be still, I have to be humble, I have to be patient, I have to accept life on life's terms. Life doesn't evolve around me. You know what I'm saying? I revolve, I revolve with it. You know what I mean? And life doesn't belong to me, but I belong to it. You see, and this is the thing. And I just, and of course, I was in prison, and after many prison sentences and becoming broke, from being rich turning into poverty, and I became homeless and all that sort of thing. I picked dog ends up on the street at one point. Things I said would never happen to me in my life happened. Like drinking tenants. I said, I'm a champagne and cognac man. I don't drink that. Look at those low life over there drinking tenants. And then all these, years later, there I was drinking tenants with them on the pot. I said, my God, look at this. I said, I could never be homeless. And suddenly one day, I was homeless. I said, man, I haven't got nowhere to go to tonight. What am I going to do? Oh, I'll go in the crack house instead of sleeping on the park bench. This is how, I was humbled by, by life, I thought I was humble. I thought I was honest. I thought I was, a good person and all the rest of it. But life was showing me that, I was arrogant and I was ignorant in many respects. I was selfish in many respects, and I was dishonest to myself and to others, and so forth and so forth. So, I asked God in Wandsworth prison, God help me. I've got no family to go to when I leave prison. I'm estranged from them all, estranged from my friends, and so forth and so forth. No home, no money. I said, God help me. I'm a drug addict, alcoholic. And before I could get up from the ground from my knees, still in the process of doing so, a prison officer asked me if I wanted to go to an AA meeting. And well, I thought it was to do with Automobiles Association, you know, car recovery. He said, no, it's to do with alcohol. You know, I said, what? I said, God, you're great. You answered my prayers already. So I said, just put me down. I'm going to that meeting. And several hours later, I was at that meeting, and I was really, I wouldn't say struck, but I was overwhelmed, but I was absolutely inspired, you know, by the honesty I heard from the members of that group, and the lack of you know, of selfishness wasn't there. You know, there was fellowship there. I felt a love there. There was that energy there. And this is where my journey started. I learned to ask for help because I refused to ask for help. I was told many times in court, it looks like you've got a drug problem, alcohol problem. If you just admit it, we'll send you to rehab instead of prison. And I said, no, I haven't got no problem. And I'd go to prison instead. And I just went in and out like that. And thank God I got to the point where I got honest. And like I said, I asked God for help. And from asking God for help and admitting I had a problem, you know, I began to live in the solution instead of the problem. And got help to go to rehab. And from rehab, like I said, I started making music and writing more poetry. I ended up writing the book. And I've got a lot of other work which is yet to be published, you know. And I just give thanks and praise to the Most High for giving me the health and the strength, for giving me a reprieve, you know, because out of that was born From Rehab to Life Foundation, because that was always my desire, was to help others steer away from the pitfalls that I had slipped into, you know, and somehow God provided the way. You know, it took years. The process took years because I've been in recovery for 17 years, going on 18 years now. You know, thank God, by the grace, only by the grace of the Most High. You know, absolutely.
You see why you gotta get this book. When you go in there, you read this man's journey. You know, I'm gonna be honest. He'd asked me to read his book, and you was having a TV launch, weren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And I should, you know, and I was like, oh, I haven't got time. I'm not gonna. And the time was coming up, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna read the book. Just read a couple of pages, and then, you know, I'll speak to those pages. And I picked up the book and I started to read it, and I was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't put the book down, and I put it down, did something, and I went back for the book, and I was like, you need to read this book. The honesty, and I think we've got a flavor of it just now, the honesty in the book. It doesn't just speak to people who have been through drug and alcohol abuse. It just speaks to a human being being honest with yourself wherever you are in life, you know. So I just found that so inspirational, just being honest, and you know, it gives you the chance to clean out and come again.
Absolutely.
And in that, I'm sure many people who are out there just watching now and listening to you are like, you know, okay, this is like, whoa, you know. So yeah, I want to thank you for really that honesty. I know after the break we are, which is what From Rehab to Life Foundation is about. It's about solutions, and it is about
Absolutely.
around mental health, well-being, drug addiction, you know, whether it be alcohol or so forth. But tell me, when you went through everything that you went through, I mean, what happened when you decided, right, I'm going to start From Rehab to Life Foundation? And could you just tell us a little bit about what Rehab to Life Foundation has been doing up until this point?
Yes, well, I touched on it. From Rehab to Life Foundation was a gradual progress from making the first album, which I'm unable to release, which was supposed to get released with the book, but because of the brothers and all that sort of thing, you know, it's been held back. But I do have another album which was released last Friday, the 24th. It's called Ex Gangsters Odyssey, which is poetry to music, and you know, it's also catalogs my journey. But From Rehab to Life Foundation, after the book, No, well, before the book, actually, you know, the charity thing was always there. I said I need to go into schools. I need to go into colleges, universities. I need to talk to the young people in particular. I need to talk to everybody, but especially the young. I don't want to see them end up like me. You know what I'm saying? And I discuss it with people. I was a member of the baptized in the Ethiopian Orthodox Twahedo Church. God bless, you know, that church there. You know, I mean, it's a spiritual church. I didn't go into it as a religion, but anyway, you know, and I spoke to certain people in there, and I came to the conclusion, oh, to get into the schools, I've got to have a business, you know, I've got to have a business set up, you know, some like a charity, for example, so I can go into these places. I said, wow. So I just went along and I visited some social services, someone working in the social services, and they advised me a bit, and I just took it up on myself. There was a brother with me, and I thought he was going to be with me for the long haul, because I said to him, well, you know, you're going to be coming into schools with me and all that. We're going to work together. But anyway, he just slipped back, and I just kept on going. I wasn't discouraged. You know, I just kept on going, and I kept on going. I asked for help, you know, and I prayed, and I fasted, and I, you know, just expressed honesty. You know, I keep expressing honesty, you know, to the best of my ability. I'm not saying I'm 100% honest, but for me, being 100% honest is beautiful, you know, because I feel so clean, you know what I mean? And I feel so free, you know, yes, indeed. And I feel so strong because lies make me weak and the truth makes me strong. You know, even if it means, well, you know, he's going in front of the firing squad, but you know, I die, you know, you go with dignity, you know, you go with the truth rather than living like some, you know, a liar, you know, I would call it a coward. I just say some little liar. Liar brings that fear out in you. You know, you become a coward. You know, you become afraid of people, places, and things. You became afraid of your own self. You know what I mean? That's what lying does. You become afraid of being found out. And you try to create more lies. And it's the same thing with addiction. And it's those same lies that kept me going on and on for all these years, taking drugs and alcohol to no avail, you know?
So in the second half, we are going to be looking at, some of the, we will be asking, the panels for some solutions,
Yeah.
who are going through or have been going through, or they may have a family member or someone who they know, you know, how can they help them? And you will be in a good place. And it's interesting because obviously, Michael, you were at one end of the spectrum and you were at the other end. So you were selling drugs and you were using drugs. So, again, I think it's just really important that we get a chance to see for people who's been there, lived that, done that, and really can give, people out there who are in the middle of it, because you've been through it, so they're in the middle of it, and really point them in the right direction. And certainly when we go to the second half, we'll be doing that. And then obviously, Princess, you'll be able to obviously give us, and that sometimes is left out, this part where the non-physical, the emotional, the spiritual side, because we've all come on this earth for something. And the system that we find ourselves in, we kind of forget, because people are just programmed to get a job and buy a house and a car, and you kind of forget that there's a greater purpose for your being. So it will be really good when we come back in the second half to kind of start exploring some of the solutions to some of the issues that have been raised. And just to say, this will be this is the first of a 3-part series that we will be looking at these kind of solutions. So we're looking forward to that. To the break, I know you also have a radio show where you give information. Are you still doing that?
Well, I'm not doing that because that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, I got so many responsibilities in so many other areas with the book, the charity
Right.
and with with music and poetry and so many projects.
But
and,
it was actually a program where you were
yes, it was a
given the
program which a great platform from Brother Dougie,
right.
who I used to go and be his anchor man or whatever every week, But you see, I didn't have the responsibility of finding people to come there or to be there on time. I would come in after I picked up my live water or whatever and things like that from Tottenham High Road, and then I joined to the radio station. So that responsibility was supposed to be a shared responsibility, and the sharing no longer existed. And so therefore I went along as far as I could, and I had to admit to myself, something's got to go. And plus I got a family I need to spend time with, and so forth and so forth.
Okay. Well, that show was actually called Find Your Voice.
Find Your Voice,
so,
yes. Great show.
After the break, we're just going to have a short break, and then we'd like that you have for the panel. We'll be putting some questions to them and asking some questions and getting some solutions. So we'll be back shortly. Look forward to seeing you on the other side.
My heart was filled with much despair when I was summoned to L'Angleterre to reside with my parents, that was certain. Though powerless, I resisted till the final curtain. My elder said, "Son, don't you want to see the snow?" I, the little boy, spontaneously replied with an impertinent no. "Why?" they exclaimed, looking puzzled and hard. I, the little boy, replied, "I see the snow on Christmas cards." So with Mammy I went one day on a rowing boat to the big ship Genoa. So colossal it caused dismay. Venezuela was the first port of call as we cruised and sailed away. The sea was rough and filled me with fear. The food was not the same, oh dear. The next stop was Genoa, and from there a train to Rome. Then again we embarked on the big ship till we docked in England, our new home. Victoria, the underground, oh, it gave me such a fright. With windows that looked into darkness, as if day had turned to night. Where were the birds of color? The buildings, the clothes, so drab and gray. And when we entered our home in Hackney, there were no maids, to my dismay. I recalled back home, they said, "Go off far and wide, England Street paved with gold. For there your future is sunny and bright, though the winters are dark and cold." I may have been young and inexperienced, and yet I knew the other half had not been told. I repeat, I may have been young and inexperienced, and yet I knew the other half had not been told.
Welcome back. This is brought to you from Rehab to Life Foundation, and we're looking at mental health solutions for drug addiction, violence, and crime. So my first question to the panel is, why do you think so many children, and we're talking children across the board, kids nowadays getting caught up in drug, violence, and crime? And that's to anyone.
Okay. When I was a drug dealer, I looked at a lot of kids And I seen that when like I said, I used to go into their houses and nothing but water in them. So that was one of my first praise. The mother had a kid. She wasn't taking care of the kid. And well, she was trying to take care of him, but the drugs wouldn't allow her to take care of him. So that would be one of my weight houses. The kid, I would see in him that if he had something that was special, I would make sure he doesn't stay on the streets. I might give him $75 or whatever, just stay out the streets. I should, used to talk to him, sit down with him and things of that nature. But the mother's too far gone. Kids got too much time to do nothing. When a kid has too much time to do nothing, the streets come grabbing. The streets come grabbing. This is nothing. The mother works 16 hours just to pay the bills. The father, he's on the street somewhere, don't even care about the mother. The kid don't even know who his father is, but knows who his mother is. Mother's in the struggle, but he don't understand the struggle. So he's part of the struggle. When he's part of the struggle, he's like me. Now that's coming from a poor place. Now coming from like me, coming from here to there, wipe me out. You see, because when I left England, I thought I was everything, By the time I got to America, everything was cool. Then my father killed my mother. When my father killed my mother, left me and my younger brother devastated. He doesn't know what's going on, but now I got to be his shield, which is the problem. I'm a kid. You know what I'm saying?
How old were you?
Under 12. Okay? So now, father, this is the strangest story because my father's not a bad father. But this is when I left here, it was going on in the relationships that the mothers and fathers were fighting. This is what kids are seeing, the same thing I'm seeing. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They perpetually seeing their mother and father fighting. They can't get along. They got their friends' parents doing it. They seeing this. They're just mixed up. You bring these kids into this world with no guidance whatsoever because we don't understand what's going on. We think working hard is the key. No, working smart. See, because if you work hard, you got to use every bone in your body. By the time you get 60 or 50, you want every pill in the world. But if you're working smart, then you can see things happening. So kids have too much time to do what they want. And another thing, mothers, what y'all got to understand is this also. You want to know who your kid really is, or what he really is? When he leaves, go in his room. Lay on his bed, put his headphones on, listen to the music he wears, listen to the shoes he wore, look how he dressed. Don't search his stuff. All you gotta do is listen to his music. You'll know who he is. You'll be able to correspond with him. I'll understand him and stop trying to press your will on him. You see, God didn't give you his will for you to press it on your child. He gave it to you to press on yourself to make yourself better. Then your kid will see the reflection on you and come and you'll have a magnetized relationship. And things will work out a lot better. So stop giving him so much time by you working. I know you got to pay the bills. Fix the solution in your house if you want and straight. And don't give him so much time to do what he wants. Give him time to see that, you care about him. Time to sit down and watch a movie with him. Time to eat some popcorn with him. Time to take him to the park and just chill with him. You ain't got to go spend no money on him. You know what he's looking for? God's gift. Time. He don't even know it. That's the saddest thing about it.
That was key. Time. Sometimes we're with our children, but we're not with them.
Not a big problem.
Thank you. You're coming from another perspective. What would you say is causing children nowadays to get called, because you went down that road, what would you say pushed you towards that? Would you say what was a causal factor?
Well, of course, the fact in my case was a lack of love from my parents, lack of support from my parents. We had a park at the back of our garden. In fact, we didn't have to cross the road. You just opened the back gate and you stepped into the car. Years, not once did my mother or my father play with us in that park or anything like that. So, we need, so there's a lack of love, lack of support. And when we spend time together, we have to be honest with each other. Quality time is only quality when it's full of love and honesty, not when it's just, I was going to say bull, no one is a load of bull, you know what I'm saying? But yes, that's quality time. When, get to find out about your feelings. My parents never knew about my feelings. Terrified as a child from my father. And, I didn't fear my mother, but I lived in terror of my father because of the violent abuse I suffered, barbaric violence abuse I suffered almost on a daily basis. And also witnessing that same similar violence being perpetrated on my mother too. And so really that's a part of it. And also lack of support in your education. Your escape would be via university, and I was one of the brightest in school. High hopes for me. I could think of going to Oxford, Cambridge, or anything like because I was achieving. And the fact of the matter is, my father, he murdered my education by taking me off from school while I was studying for 3 A levels and 7 O levels. And from there, he ejected me out of the house, and he did that against my mother's wishes, against and my wishes. Well, my wishes didn't count at all. When I was sick and half dead one day, I still went to school. No one noticed, why, Van, you don't look well. You maybe have to stay home today. And I was too scared to talk. I had to learn to hide my feelings all the time. So everything was suppressed all the time. It was a teacher in school looked at me and said, you don't look right, man. And when they sent me to sick bay, they discovered from the thermometer, the woman, her eyes nearly popped out of her head. She called for the ambulance. She said, look, you're on death's doorstep. Your temperature is bordering the other side. That was and so that is kind of house I lived in. As a sick child, I still went to school, and so forth and so forth. So really, so we need love. That's the basic ingredient. And that love has to be expressed in an honest way. Not the superficial love, the artificial love, the veneer sort of thing. You make it look good for people. Like we had 2 big houses. We lived in one. We're all well dressed. People think we're all happy. Oh, everyone middle class family. They didn't know the terror. I was jealous of my friends living in one room with his mother. I said, man, I wish I was living like my brother Hilton over there, or that one over there who lives with his dad. You know what I mean? His mom is still in St. Lucia or wherever. I said, man, these children are having a ball. You know what I mean? I'm suffering, and they think, yeah, but that's life. That's illusions for you, and that's dishonesty. So really and truly, we need to talk to our children and find out how do you feel? Because we carry feelings, and the feelings are very important. We must learn to express our feelings, and and share our feelings.
Princess Otas. So we've heard some of the real pain from the parent side and how they've affected the children, and that will be happening right now. How would you say we could begin to heal the parents and the children? What would be some of the things that you could say towards that?
It's very deep, as you know. The whole of humanity is suffering from what I would call trauma. And some of those traumas, they are very deep. It's so deep, they are within us vibrationally. So the only way forward is to go spiritual. There is a need to go spiritual. Is to understand the self. I mean, it is said that people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Yeah? You see, people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, and we are in a time where there's knowledge everywhere. Spirituality is being talked about. People are talking about meditation, and you see, we need to let go of blame because we're in a new age now. Age of taking responsibility. We're in the age where we have to understand the bigger picture. You see, we're in the age where we have to come out of the box. You know, for there are people who are Christians out there, and the very Bible says that Jesus said, there is much I want to share with you now, but you are not ready for it. So at that time, the consciousness was very narrow, but today people are entering into a dimension where they're becoming more open-minded. You know, in my own ministry, Immortal Healing, more and more people are coming through the doors. More and more, they are Christians. Even on my way coming here, the driver is a Muslim. And even then, he wanted to come. Because no matter what religion you're in, because this is the age of forgetting about religion and becoming spiritual. You see, to become spiritual. And a lot of the problems that we are suffering from is not just in this lifetime. We are carrying things. We are multidimensional beings. We are carrying things, energy, vibrationally, from generation to generation. So it's going to take time to re-educate. It's going to take time for us. We have to come to a place where we are ready to listen to what, I like the way you say mother energy. I've never heard anybody express like, yeah, mother energy. We've got a lot of ego. We're very proud. The human race, we're very proud. All of us are. We have the ego. You know, we have been given. Sometimes it feels like we were given an opportunity to express what we're going to express, and universe has recorded that. They're making a mess of things here. We need to step in. You see, so the way forward is healing. Many people out there, I would say that yes, we're angry. People are very, very angry. The mother is angry, the father is angry, the children are angry, everybody's angry. We have to come to a place where we have to be willing to let go of this anger. This anger, they're all vibrations anyway. Everything is vibration. And there is a healing for us. You know, angelic Reiki, which I am a practitioner of, is because I work with angelic Reiki because it is the highest divine love aspect. It carries a very high vibrational frequency of unconditional love. It's here to heal us. You know, love is medicine, and that's what we need.
Thank you. Now, definitely that high vibration is needed. That high love, you know, and the thing is as well, when our people, any human being, is in that trenches, when there is no food in your cupboard, you know, when you know your father has done what he has done to your mother, when you know you're not getting the love from your father, when you're in that mode, it's a very difficult place. And I also want to come to a second question, where when you're actually in a place where you're taking drugs, you're taking alcohol, you know, we don't seem to have so many within the community, and it doesn't seem, and maybe you can let us know, that actually going through some kind of process. And I know they talk about rehab, because it's first of all acknowledging that there's a problem. Acknowledging, that's the thing, you got to acknowledge that, okay, there's a problem. Like you said, the judge said, look, I'll give you, you know, you don't have to go prison, go to many, like, no, I'll go prison. That's like heights of denial. But going through a program, like a rehab program, we don't seem to have many of our people going through a rehab program. What else do you think are some of the reasons, and how can we get, and whether it's that kind of program, but it's a program, but some kind of process, because for those who are in the problem, we need to get them into a process. How do you think we can get people into a process where they start looking at solutions? And I'll send that question to you first, Tamara.
Absolutely. Well, the thing is we said we would already denial. I'm afraid Afro-Caribbeans and I suppose Afro-Americans and Afro-Europeans, wherever they are, they're very tough. You know, we're okay. We've been through a lot of trauma. 400 years is always going about this slavery thing. But, there's stuff that went on before slavery and, and there's stuff that's still going on now that we have to deal with. So is this dishonesty of self. And when I'm dishonest with myself, I lack love for myself. So really and truly, we have to begin to love ourselves. We have to begin to accept, the situation that we're in, the predicaments that we accept the way that we feel instead of running away from our feelings. Accept the feelings, sit on them, and feel them, and instead of running for a bottle of alcohol or some cocaine or some crack to sort of suppress that feeling and so on. Talk to that feeling, meditate with it, sit with it, and go through that process, and it won't kill you. It won't kill you, and we come out stronger at the other side. We talk about those feelings to others instead of keeping it to ourselves. We pray, we ask God to give us the strength, whatever we need in order to go through these feelings without, drinking alcohol and taking drugs abusively. Absolutely.
So basically, one has to sit with themselves, however uncomfortable that might feel, whatever the feelings are that are coming up. One needs to sit with themselves and then work through it without looking for these distractions, like you said, drugs and alcohol.
Yes, without looking for these props. And like I say, when you sit with it, it's, don't be silent about it. Talk about it. Talk to your brother, your sister, your auntie, your grandma, even a stranger. I'll go as far as saying, talk to the trees about it. Because I talked to the trees about it. And that kept me sane. That kept me going. That just kept me in the realm, little bit in the realms of sanity. I spoke to the trees. I spoke to the animals. I spoke to the pot plants, in my house and things like that.
And I think here, I really want to make a point of this, because there's almost this thing about if you speak to yourself, or if you speak to the trees, and if you speak to the animals, what you're just saying there, like, okay, all right, that's not some solution. But the reality is, as a people, we are, and you mentioned that earlier, nature is a big part of our existence. In fact, we're made from nature. We're just a part of nature. So in you saying, speaking to the trees, we all know science shows us that this human body is made up from all the elements in the ground: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, potassium, magnesium, that makes up everything else around us. So we're simply a part of this nature. But somehow in the human being's arrogance, we kind of think that we're above, and that's where you'll lose. If you ever think that you're above nature, you've lost the game already, you've lost the plot. So I think, especially, for people who have come out of that natural being, that thing about talking to the trees, that thing about talking to yourself and sitting with yourself, that thing about, expressing yourself is, I think, so important. So I really want to just make a point on that, because, people might think, oh, I don't want anyone to think that I'm who cares what anybody else think? You need to free yourself. You need to. So I just wanted to make a point. I think that's really
absolutely
interesting.
That's the fact.
You gotta look at what the tree is. The only reason you're alive is because of the tree. You cut all the trees down, we die. Do people understand that? The oxygen from the trees is what's keeping us alive. The queen is trying to plant them right now as we talk. She's got a program that plants them because she knows what half the world don't know. Without them trees, we die. And London is built with nothing but buildings. So that tells you something. If you want good oxygen coming into your lung, you can run all you want. But without Mother Nature, you're going to die regardless. What she's saying is very true.
Yeah.
We are spiritual beings. Like I said, you have to have the mind, body, and soul working together. You know, and if they're not working together, you're going to be an off-balance person. And this is what's going on in these houses y'all are talking about. You know, they are off balance. These men are off balance. With the women around here, listen, I've come to England and I've noticed a woman could be walking by and say, "How you doing, babe?" She'll look at me like, "You just killed my energy." In the United States, she's gonna say, "Hey, how you doing?" And I'm gonna feel good and walk on my business, you know, and do what I gotta do. These are the things we are connected together, whether we want to see it or not.
You know, we are in an age where there's light. There's a lot of light right now. We're talking about the harmonic convergence, which started in 1987, where the Earth entered into what is called the photon belt, meaning we are having more light coming into our Milky Way galaxy. And in 2012, the Earth entered into the photon belt permanently. So as we're speaking now, more and more light is entering into our being because the salvation, the healing is inside out. So Mother Nature is very, very wise. You know, we don't have to worry about what's happening out there. Whatever problem you're going through, your problem will guide you to your solution. It will. You see, we don't go out there looking for who to save. That's not going to work. They have to be ready for it. And Mother Nature knows how to make you surrender.
Oh, yeah.
Surrender.
Yes, she does.
Yeah, surrender to the circumcision of the heart. Because the problem is with the heart, you see. There's so much hatred, you know, shame, guilt. And a lot of it is coming from past life, previous incarnation. A lot of it is coming from ancestral lineage. So we're in an age now where Spirit is saying to us, no one can cast the first stone. We're all old souls. You know, we've done so many things. We've come here now because of the earth is in the photon band to heal. So I would say healing is taking place. I mean, we're talking about, people are talking about the lockdown. But for me, the lockdown is such a brilliant opportunity. It gives you, you know, there's this, one of my favorite philosophers, his name is Socrates.
Yes,
and he said, the unexamined life is not worth living.
No.
So for me, this lockdown is like a gift from Mother Nature telling you, sit down and examine your life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you said about Socrates, because we all know, so he went to Kemet and he studied for 12 years with the priests in the African temples in Kemet. So again, you know, it's good that we're hearing ancient wisdom coming into today,
well,
which is wonderful.
It is actually written that knowledge is understanding, wisdom is understanding the knowledge of the ancient.
That's right.
So this is the time, yes. Everything is going according to plan.
So I feel.
It's actually well.
That's how I feel.
This is the age to sit down and to master the art of going within through meditation.
Thank you.
May I just say something, because really what you say is very important about why there's so many few black people in recovery. And that goes for Chinese and Asians as well, and Arabs and so on. You know, why? You know, I was the only one in my rehab, and 4 weeks before I was leaving, that's when another black guy came in. When I attended these other fellowships of NA and AA, I'd be the only black man in there most of the time. It was like a bit of a surprise to see another black man in the same meeting, and so on and so forth. And to be honest with you, as a race of people, there's a lot of low self-esteem, low self-worth, a lot of anger, and a lot of guilt for whatever reason that may be, and shame, and so on and so on. And the last thing you want to do now, after going through all that, I'm going to now admit that I'm an addict and asking for help and all that. And we were brought up to hold it down, hold it down. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And and boys don't cry, and no, shut up and hush up, and and just carry on. Don't talk about it. You just carry on like a robot. Switch on and switch off. And as black men, we had this big ego, like we're strong. You know what I mean? We're the dominion. We don't need rehab. That's for weak people. We're strong. Look at all these things we've been through, and how can a bottle of booze break me down? Or some little white powder that hasn't got eyes to see, or hands or legs to walk. It hasn't got a brain like me. How can that overpower me? Surely I'm in control of that. I've got dominion over alcohol and over cocaine and crack and so on and so forth. And
then you got 5 friends that's doing it with you. Your environment plays a very important part. You can't expect to be, this is one of my best plays when I was doing this. You see, because you can't expect Jeff and Tom and Alan to stop using drugs, and they staying in the same neighborhood, around the same environment, doing the same thing every day. When he comes out of prison, he's clean. He goes right back to the same environment. He's got the same friends. He goes to the same store. But if you take him and put him in another country or another state, he has to get used to it. So he's going to find a job. He's going to find emplacement a lot better. These things are not provided for him. They put you in a drug anomaly program and you stay in the same community. A lot of people go right back to it. They leave, stay for a little while, 6 months. And I used to watch them. They clean, they walk around. And we used to, I'm just keeping it real. We used to look up $20. He's going to be back getting high in about 3 weeks. Wow. And as long as he's in that environment, that's what happens.
So really what you're saying is the solution is when they're let out of prison, for those who have been incarcerated and are now clean, the solution is to put them in a different environment. That's simply what you say. And then to be able to do that, and here is where some of the issues do lie. One has to have the ability to set up a place for them, housing for them, and that then falls back on those in power. And here is where the cycle becomes a bit,
Now you understand.
Yes, I'll go further. You see, the thing is, you can rehouse me, you can move me to Scotland from London, but it doesn't necessarily, it will help, it can help in some cases, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to stop. I have to be ready and willing to stop. Right. The thing is, because I carry the addict with me to Scotland or abroad to, New York or Africa or wherever it is, or Australia or wherever it is, the addict is still in me. But, and no matter what, because I've seen people leave London and go to Cornwall to, get away from everybody and everything, which is good. We've got to have boundaries. We've got to throw away those numbers, all the dealers' numbers out of our phone. Don't keep them, because, and keep away from these people in certain places. But then I've known people, they've gone all the way to Cornwall or wherever, and they still use it because the addict in him is attracting the same people there. Because believe you me, you got drugs and things, more drugs out there in the countryside than in London.
But it's easy. The thing about it, it's easier to see him. It's easier to get a picture of him out of his environment into a new environment. Now, true enough, he has to be ready to come out of that environment. You're not going to take him out of an environment if he's not ready, first of all. So you start from prisons, inside the prisons. The program is you're in a program within prison already. And when you get out, we're going to prepare you by taking you and housing you, giving you a job outside of the city. Now, to go with it, we might even give you 90 days of your sentence early. To go with it, we might give you 5 years of your sentence early. But on the contract, if you mess up, you do every day of the 5 years or the 10 years. It's got to be something behind it for you and for them. At the end of it, there's a job and everything. If you don't start from the prison systems and attacking them in there and getting their mind to see straight, you won't. Okay, I never used drugs. I was the one who was providing the drugs. Okay, when I went to prison, I still had $250,000 left in my, and I'm like, I don't care. When I get out, I'm going right back to it. But when I realized I had 25 years as a juvenile in a prison where there was nothing but men, grown men, and I'm in the feds, things start looking a little bit funny to me. And I'm looking at all these addicts now. They were like this, you know, they ain't addicts no more. Now they're going through these programs. This is how I know it will work. I've seen it work. They're going through these programs and they don't get the time I've got because they're doing little petty stuff, but the feds take everybody because it's about money. And now they're going through these programs in the prison system, which allows them to come out, gives them a capability to get a job, come out of the environment, what they in, you know, and get their life together. You cannot, I understand what you're saying about they take the habit with them, but there's got to be something, an incentive for him to say, man, this is too good. Like my incentive, Christ isn't this money that I got, but it's too good to be true. I wouldn't mess this up for nothing in the world. I wouldn't care how many drugs they give me. Somebody give me 200 keys, and I know how to make it work and run the street. I wouldn't even take it. Because right now, what I have seen, what I understand, is that I have a power within me that can do anything I want. And once you get a person to realize he can do anything he wants, however you call it, just don't press your will on him. Will ain't his will. Factually show him through you coming up and changing your life, and he's seeing this. I don't care. It's better for younger ones, but you can catch anybody like this because we are children of habits. That's all we are, children of habits. We're nothing else. We wear nice clothes because we've seen other people wear nice clothes. We wear nice hats because we've seen jewelry. Everything we do is children of habits. Remember that. You have to find a habit you like that other habits, and you'll be all right.
Okay, thank you. So I think from what we got there, there has to be this internal drive, so the person themselves has to get to that point. That has to happen.
Yes.
But then they also need support from the institutions, whether it be family, because it might not be the institution, the family might say, you know, go and stay with auntie such and such, you know. Will Smith, Beverly Hills, you know, his mom took him out of the area and took him to. So it sounds like two things. You need the person, but then you also need support. And I think as any human being, you'd need support.
I think personally, if you really, really want to help somebody, we need to be looking at the situation from an energy standpoint. Everything is energy. And if you really want to help people, I say offer them energy healing. Would you agree? Energy healing is the way forward. Because we're talking about angelic Reiki, which is the highest divine love aspect vibration, versus low energy of anger, bitterness, jealousy. So all the people need right now is to be in a state, is to invest in meditation, sitting down and learning how to invoke this energy. This is what I do. We facilitate a very powerful meditation session in my ministry called DNA and Ancestor Clearing. Since 2012, I've facilitated quite a lot of, I would say hundreds of DNA and Ancestor Clearing, and I've seen it change lives. I've seen it clear people of, perhaps even pain in their body that was there. There are some people carrying pains in their body, and you'll be surprised that pain is probably linked to maybe when their mother died, or perhaps when their father left, or something that happened when they were a child. They hold it in their body as an energy.
And as you're there, I'm going to ask another question then. So how do you think domestic or street violence is related to addiction and mental illness? Throw that out there.
How do I, street violence and domestic violence, that's what you said?
Yeah, domestic violence, just violence.
Right,
And how's that
period.
related to addiction or mental health?
Well, okay. You got to look at it like this. First of all, if you're on the streets night and day, you got to be crazy. That's going to try to send you mental anyhow. You know, because you're not sleeping. You out there on the street. I don't care if you're using drugs. I don't care if you're in a gang. I've been in gangs. I've sold drugs. I did streets. Once you out there on the streets on an everyday basis, it's going to suck your energy up. Okay? It's going to suck your energy up no matter how you go about it. So it's going to lead to drugs. It's going to lead to crime. And let me put it like this. Most drug dealers that sell drugs wind up using drugs. They wind up being a part of their own product. If they ain't their own product already, you see. He's just at a higher level. He gets to still see a big TV when he's snorting his Coke or drinking his Hennessy. But he's just like him. It's just that he's got the money. When the money runs out, guess where he finds himself? Just like him. Oh, I'm homeless too. You know, he's got a little bit of money and a connection when you don't. So personally, me, I feel the streets, if you're on the streets on a 24-hour basis, you have more chance of being an addict of a drug because you're going to try to stay up at night. Cocaine does that. You know what I'm saying? You might want to sleep at night. Heroin does that. These are all the things that's in the street that your partners are using already, and they're going to put it onto you when they see, damn, dog, you can't stay up, dog. Just hit this. You're going to be able to stay up. Man, what that? He hits it a couple of times. Next thing, he's addicted. You know? It's the streets. It doesn't make a difference. If you're on the streets on a 24-hour basis, or that's where you spend most of your time, and you're gang-related, 9 times out of 10, by the time you reach 32, 40, you're going to be an addict.
Tamara, that was the same question.
Could you repeat that question?
So how is domestic or street violence related to addiction and mental health?
Domestic
mental
and street
illness.
violence is related to
Mental illness and
mental
addiction.
illness. Street violence in relation to mental illness is once again, violence is a lack of love, is a lack of forgiveness. This is, lack of patience, lack of honesty turns into violence. You start calling me a liar, so you start hiding it over with violence now. And you say, no, it's all right, yeah, cool. These are but these things, you without realizing you're on the path. You're on the dark path. You're on the wrong path. You're in the negative energy there. And that becomes like a way of life. So when I started home, for example, the conditions I lived in, a lack of love, a lack of support, all these things condition you, for that life. It doesn't mean to say that 100% you're going to end up like that, but it plays a big part in going down that road. We need also low self-esteem, low self-worth. Comes back to talking about stuff, about what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking. Children, they don't talk, they just go out there and they just model up and they put on clothes like Armani or wearing this and that, that it says it all, and so on and so forth. So that pretense now goes into that escapism in fashion or whatever, goes into escapism in drug and alcohol addiction as well. Instead of, we need to come back to spirituality, to a spiritual upbringing, which is within. This is where it's all gone wrong. This is a godless society we're living in. You know, and we need the creator in our lives. Within there, that spark, that energy is God. You know what I mean? That energy there. You know, I call it God. Yes, it's God, and we're all God's children. You know what I mean? And God is good, and God is love. And we're created in the image and the likeness of our Creator. So let us behave that way by thinking that way. Think loving, think forgiving, you know, think patiently, you know, be humble, be charitable, be caring, be kind, you know, and feel good about yourself, you know, and be happy. So our children, our sons and daughters, they need to learn about our history and feel good about their background, about their ancestors and things like that. You know, instead of just being taught about 400 years of suffering and all this and that, of course it's going to depress people. And they don't want to, you know, they want to run away. Some people want to run, go and have a drink after they find out about their, you know, that kind of history. You know what I'm saying? So really and truly, we really need to re-educate our young ones, and re-educate the adults as well, because all us adults, we're learning now about stuff that we didn't know when we were in our 20s and so on. I certainly didn't know about Kemet like I know now, and you know, lots of other stuff. But suddenly all the truth is coming up. Like Princess said, we're now in the photon band, you know, fully in the age of light, which we call the Aquarius, from way back in the late 60s, early 70s. And so, well, I'm thinking, yeah, age of light, well, yeah, when's it happening? You know, I'm looking for it to happen, you know, and I couldn't, you know, I'm trying to feel it. I know there's something happening, but now I feel it. I do feel that we are in the age of light, and I know I'm a living testimony to that, because I came out and I became honest with myself and so forth, and with my Creator and with my fellow men. And I must say one more point, because I feel it's very important for someone listening out. There's just Spirit guiding me, telling me, well, the fact is that when I was in prison, and I always used to go, when I was released from prison through drink and drug addiction related crimes, you know, I always turned right to the off license. You know, I deserve a celebratory drink, and, you know, and so on and so on, which eventually led me to the crack house. And I kept repeating itself like that. Now, when I became honest after going to an AA meeting in prison, I said to the what you call it? He's the chairperson who runs the AA meeting. I said to him, listen, I'm being released next week, and I'm going to need someone to come with me, because I'm going straight to rehab. And I know if I'm on my own, I'm going to be tempted to go to that off license, and I'm never going to get to rehab. Instead, I'm going to end up in a crack house, committing crime, and back in again a week or two, a month later. And so it's in fact a drug prison worker, because I spoke, he accompanied me to rehab, and that made a big difference to this day. So we need to keep with company, with the right company. We need to keep with people who, you know, who are on our side, you know what I mean, who are clean and sober, who's got the way of life that we would like to have, that we know is the best thing for us. I can't be mixing with thieves and expect to stop stealing, you know, or mixing with drug addicts and socializing with them and expect to stop taking drugs, or drinking alcohol. Or if I'm a murderer, I can't expect to stop that murdering people if I'm still, you know, associating myself with them and bigging them up, and we're all bigging each other up. You know, it doesn't work like that. We have to separate ourselves from these things with honesty.
And that's what I was talking about. The environment, the person's environment, no matter if he's getting out of prison, no matter if he's alcohol, no matter if he's a gangster, I don't care what he is. His energy has to change. That energy that's in them projects or in that neighborhood he's in, he does not need that energy. The energy she's talking about is the energy he needs. That's the energy I have. That's the energy I understand now. I understand natural law, Mother Nature. That's it. I don't have to look for God no more. I go straight to Mother Nature and say, look, this is what's going on with me. I know God knows what's going on with me. But he needed me to direct myself to something that is direct with me. Instead of everybody looking for the devil, and blaming everything on the devil, blame it on Mother Nature. She don't kill. If you standing still, she gonna wipe you out. That's her job. God is giving her that job. If you're standing still too long in her world, she'll wipe you out. As long as you're moving, and when you say to yourself, you know what? I'm gonna do this today. Then you don't do it for 5 days, she punishes you. Do it. And when you want to know how to start a business or something, do it. Don't play with her. She will gun you down. You think it's the devil. It's none of that. Her job is to make sure what we can't do, she cleans up for God. That's what.
Thank you.
Yes, brother.
I wanna now, if we can, if you're a bit more older and you've been through the streets and you've been through the drug addiction and you've been through the alcohol addiction and you're coming out, that's one stage. But and I didn't say this, but I just want to say this now. I'm sorry to hear what happened between your father and your mother.
Yeah.
But how do we, what do we say? How do we assist? How do we support the 12, 13, 14-year-old who has had to face a trauma in life like yours? Or the 12, 13, 14-year-old who feels they're not loved, who feels they're not listened to, who are at the beginning of that road and may begin to embark on that journey? What do we say to that 13 or 14-year-old who's beginning to get into drugs, who may be beginning to get into crime and violence on the street? What can be done for those children?
Well, we have to give them an alternative with life. Like, for instance, tell me, son, what do you like doing? What are your talents? What do you enjoy? Surely there's other things you can enjoy rather than just going around with a knife in your pocket or shotting some bits of crack about the place and counting some money. Is there anything else, and oh, well, I like writing stories. Well, okay, so well, come with me. We've got a workshop in writing stories, and also we know some publishers and all that who, we can work things out. So, when you complete the work, we can, put it to the publishers and, whoa, you're going to get yourself published. Or, sports. Okay, we know not everyone can be a premiership footballer, but at least we encourage that. We connect them with the, with the local football team, and maybe they make the county team or whatever, and some will even make the national team. God only knows. But at least once they embark on that road, doing things that they enjoy doing, rather than doing something that they felt that they had no choice to do, because mommy's there, daddy's not there, this and that. These are my family, these boys here, and they're all selling crack, so it's a natural thing for me to go along and do that. Not only are they doing that, but a lot of them are what you call battering girls, gang rapes and all that sort of thing as well. People don't talk about that, but that's all part of it as well. And like my brother was saying, they get high on their own supply and they end up doing all that kind of thing. So really and truly, we need to redirect that energy into things that they love doing, because there's always something that we love doing. And even though we don't make any money out of it, it will take us to a place where we will be making money from something else that we like doing. But so we have to, so really and truly, we have to program ourselves. We have to, focus on doing the things that we like doing, and we will get a living out of that one way or another. If it's not with that specific thing, it will be with something else. But the fact is, when we get into this habit of doing things that we don't really want to do, but we're just going along and doing it, this is where we end up so confused, so angry, so frustrated. You don't want to go to work when you got trapped and you're making all these excuses. How am I going to get out of it? I need to pay my rent. But you can break out of it. You'll owe the landlord two months rent and find somewhere else in that 2 months to work or something like that. There's ways, go back and sleep on your sofa, on the sofa at your mom's or your friend's place until, you know what I mean, the real thing that you like to do comes up, and so on and so forth.
Princess Otas, let me ask you the same thing. So for these young ones who maybe are just about to embark on drug, and maybe even sitting there with their mom now or dad, not saying anything because the parents kind of might not know, you know, they're being influenced. What could be done at this stage to stop them embarking on that road?
I think it's very, very important that we should start within you. Everyone is being encouraged at this time by nature to go within. People are carrying traumatic energies. That's just how it is. We can call it whatever we want to call it. At the end of the day, we're talking about energy. And it's very important at this time that those of us who feel an innate calling to take responsibility for our own emotional health and well-being, we have to start by doing what God says, and that's to sit down and go within, because we have to do the healing. The blockages that we're experiencing outside is all within. The only solution is to do energy healing.
So if you just take us through, what would this 13 or 14-year-old watching now, could be an adult, but we just start, how would they take the steps? What would be the steps? If they're at home, what would they, when you say go within, what would they do?
Well, if it resonates with them, that what we are saying here in regards to energy healing, I would tell them, please do your research. You know, there's so much information out there, because there's so many healing modalities as well, so many energy healing out there. Do your research and see which one that resonate with you more, because you want to be focusing more on in here, not out there. The mind is so disturbed. You want to focus on in here. And we also need to understand that the human body is a light conductor. It's a vibrational interpreter. You know, it transmutes energy. So we need to be conscious of what kind of energy are we, you know, allowing our body to suck up. And if you're feeling pain, clearly you need to start tapping into that higher vibrational frequencies. And it's there.
Thank you. Michael?
13 and 14-year-olds, what she said is true, but he'll never ever understand energy. Never. How he's going to get to understand what's going on is what society uses on him, but you got to be there if you're the father or mother. Role models. We got Michael Jordan being this role model for my son. It would never happen with me, and I like Mike, but he will not be your role model. That's the first part. So if the son doesn't have if the boy or girl doesn't have role models, doesn't have a factual thing in his being that he says, when he looks out the window, let's just say, whoa, man, Mike's got a nice car now. Mike, how you doing this? You know, he's puzzled of materialistic things. The energy part can be told to him later in that midst, because he's not going to understand it till he gets to a certain age. All he sees is beauty things, and they thrown in his eye like they were doing me, and I'm running around saying, man, how can I get this? How can I get that? My father ain't going to buy it. My mother ain't going to buy it. What can I do? That's what's got to be changed in his mind. He has to do that with somebody who actually is doing something that is positive energy. And when he sees him, he goes in. And the dude with the positive energy, or the person who has this, lady or man, can tell him, no, I didn't get my money selling drugs. That's not what happened with me. If you really want to know what happened to me, come on and hang out with me sometime. See, the role models, the older ones that understand what she's talking about, have to teach the younger ones, you know? Because England don't have communities. You got white person, black person, Indian person, white person, black person. That's done on purpose. That's done on purpose. In the United States, you have 3-story buildings full of nothing but blacks in the middle of town, while the whites that are as poor as them and getting more money than them lives on the outside, see them doing bad. But you're put on a platform to see you are low grade to them. You see? So the kids are running around in this playground all day, ooh, drugs are being sold, ooh, and the police come through every now and then, but there's not one white person that comes through that they do. You might get beat down. You see? So you have two different ways of doing it. England did it by putting 2 whites, black, 2 Indians, black. You'll never get to know your history like that. You could take him in school, you could take him with you and do it, but when he leaves, he hangs with 1 white, 1 black, 2 Indians. He's the only white. He's the only black a lot of times. So he's learning all that stuff within their household, but he ain't giving them his because he don't know it. He's like me. I didn't know it at the time. So I'm listening to everybody else, and I'm saying to myself, whoa, I don't got a story to tell. I'm different. And that's what's going on in their head. They've got no story to tell. They've got no money. Their parents don't understand money. Money is the development of any human being. I don't care. I hear them saying down here, money doesn't mean anything. But let me let y'all in on a secret in London. That's one of the reasons United States black people have uprised, because they learned development is money. You need to buy clothes. You need to buy shoes. You need to buy food. Then once you learn how to develop money, money becomes nothing. You become the energy to money. When you give it to somebody for doing something good, they feel good about it. It ain't the money that did it. It was the energy that was put into the work that the person feels good about, and you're paying for the services. This is what money's about. So any one of y'all out there that think money isn't everything, it's not everything over your family, over God, over what you're structured on, I agree. But when you're talking about living in a capital country, and England and America is capitalism, you need to understand currency. And a lot of people are upper class or do anything because they got no money to pay a light bill. Who's going to be thinking about energy when he can't pay a light bill? Tell me who's doing that. Who's going to be thinking about energy when he can't feed his kid?
Can I just say something? It
Yes, you can.
depends on how much you want your healing. Because some of these people, they will spend £150 on trainers.
Right.
You know, so it just depends on how much you want it and the knowledge that you have. A lot of people, they have poverty consciousness.
That's what
because
they got.
you are the money. You are the wealth. You know, it's all within you. But if you think you're not good enough, if you feel like you're not good enough, that's what you've got to correct and know that you are good enough. You understand?
So it's certain this, when we go back to this 13, 14-year-old self-esteem,
Yes.
who they are in this world,
Yeah.
where they fit in this world, but also them having an understanding that there are ways, yes, you can make money by selling drugs or going down that road, but the consequences and the price that you pay is too high. You don't want that. So there are other alternatives. One of the things I'm hearing saying is understanding financial literacy, not just maths and English, but understand how becoming knowledgeable about how to make money in different ways, and then using that money as an exchange of energy. So actually having a different concept around money, and we're actually coming towards the end of the program now, but this will be pick up next week, because you were successful in what you were doing on the streets, although you was down the wrong road, your life showed you that this isn't the way. So you had the ability to be successful. It's just that the road that you took. So you had that. It was that direction. Yourself, you were a successful gangster, whatever you was doing out there. You were making money, But again, you'd gone down the wrong road doing that. And what we want to do and it's the whole remit, and we've got 2 more weeks where we'll be, looking at solutions, is, how do we re-educate? Because, and that's what I'm hearing. You're saying re-educating from a spiritual
Absolutely.
understand where we are.
Absolutely.
You also say going through programs, making sure that you get honest with yourself. And when you get honest with yourself, that this is what I'm hearing, of course, and then moving from there, you're talking about identity, where we find ourselves, and being able to move forward from there. So I mean, I'm really looking forward to the other solution. Any last? We just got about 2 minutes left.
One thing I want to
1
say.
minute
Hold
left.
on.
So
The thing is, I've got a poem to say. I've got a poem to say at the end of this.
So at the end,
session
so
here.
if you do your,
I'm just gonna say something quick.
30
I'm just
seconds,
gonna say,
10 seconds, and
I'm
then
gonna
we'll
say
let
this one quick thing.
Peter finished. Tamara.
Sling that to me, please. You've got Democrats, you've got Republicans, you've got Labor. What's the other one y'all got here?
It's conservative.
Conservative. If you two parties can't get together to help the black kid, what do? We need finance. You've got a lot of parks around here. I've been watching them. I do a lot of riding around. And you got buildings in them parks with nothing in. You shut the recreations down and you got swinging around. These parks and these recreations should be open. And y'all are the people to do it. Y'all the ones to come together and say we can open them. And what we have to do in order to get the buildings I'm at that have nobody in, been down 3 years. These are places that you can put things for kids.
Okay, so
just think about it.
Thank you. So next week, we can look at some other solutions as well within the community, because I think that's a key missing link, that in the community, we do have people who are doing things, and so we can see where we can help ourselves. But we're almost out of time now, so I think at this stage, we would like to hand it back to Tamara Gabriel, who has a poem to see us out.
Thank you very much. And this poem here actually, it touches on effective parenting. And it also touches on that, the same energy thing of negative and positive. And it touches on consequences. And effective parenting is about teaching children about spirituality and the consequences of their actions. And the scrumping. And if you don't know what scrumping is, it's when you used to climb over people's fences and you steal their apples. Because you didn't ask for their permission. You stole them. So anyway, but we didn't think it was stealing at the time. And this is how it goes. No more climbing over someone's fence to steal those apples. No, it's not stealing. In the name of scrumping was our defense. After all, they'd only fall and rot on the ground. We'll give Mama some cooking apples to make apple pie and save her some pounds. At first, it all seemed to make sense until chocolate bars slipped into our pockets to save us some pence. From chocolate bars to prison bars, through which we observe moon and stars, wondering where it all went. Then I heard someone say, "Didn't you think to ask?" No. Why? Because they'd only say no. But sooner or later, you'd get a yes, and the apples you'd receive wouldn't be cursed, but blessed. And therefore, mothers and fathers, when the children come home with the apples, where did you get them from? These trainers, where did you get them from? Take them back. You know what I mean? Take them back. You know, if you didn't ask for them, if you didn't get it honestly, take it back. Get rid of it. Give it away, whatever. Absolutely. And children, realize this. From stealing chocolate bars in sweet shops could end you up with you could end up with a long jail sentence. Because that's the way the road goes along that road.
We want to thank you for tuning in this week. We look forward to seeing you again next week, where we have more mental health solutions for drug addiction, violence, and crime. I'm Kandaki McConnell. Thank you for tuning in.